Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to present resourcesync. Today, our goal is straightforward, to show why this solution is ready to move from validation into execution. We are not here to give an information session. We are here to make the case that resourcesync solves a real enterprise problem, creates demand in a practical way, and deserves stakeholder support for the next phase. Let me start with the problem. Enterprise teams are managing resource coordination across disconnected systems like Microsoft Teams, Jira, and Smartsheet. On paper, each tool serves a purpose. In practice, they create fragmentation. Managers have to pull data from multiple places, reconcile availability manually, and then make staffing and planning decisions based on information that is often delayed, incomplete, or inconsistent. That fragmentation creates real operational pain. In our research, we found that organizations can lose 10 to 20 hours in a single planning cycle just trying to align people, timelines, and workloads across platforms. That is time that should be spent improving delivery, not chasing updates. And the impact goes beyond wasted hours. It leads to staffing conflicts, duplicated work, delayed handoffs, missed deadlines, and less confidence from leadership teams that need clear visibility. This pain is expensive because it compounds. A delayed staffing decision causes delivery risk. Delivery risk forces more meetings. More meetings create more manual work. Eventually, the organization pays for poor coordination through slower execution, lower productivity, and frustration across teams. What makes this especially important is that current alternatives are not solving the problem. Companies are trying to bridge the gap with spreadsheets, dashboards, exports, and status calls. Those methods may patch the issue temporarily, but they do not create a unified view of resource demand. They are reactive tools in a situation that requires proactive coordination. And this problem is only becoming more urgent. Hybrid work, cross-functional delivery, and tool sprawl are increasing complexity for enterprise teams. The more systems a company adds, the harder it becomes to answer simple but critical questions. Who is available? Where are the overloads? Which projects are at risk because the right people are not aligned at the right time? That brings us to the core job to be done. Customers are not looking for another dashboard. They are looking for one place to see resource demand clearly, detect conflicts early, and act before small issues become expensive execution failures. That is the opening we identified, and that is why resourcesync matters. We have clear evidence that the pain is real, urgent, and financially meaningful. With that foundation established, I'll hand it over to Hugh to show how resourcesync solves the problem and why customers believe it offers superior value.
Thanks, Chance. Once the problem was clear, the next question was whether customers cared enough to change their behavior and adopt a new solution. Our research gave us a strong answer: yes. When we spoke with target users, we heard a consistent message. Resource coordination is not a minor inconvenience. It is mission critical. Customers told us they struggle with fragmented visibility, manual reconciliation, and late discovery of staffing conflicts. They were not describing a cosmetic pain point. They were describing a daily operational problem that directly affects execution quality. That customer feedback gave us the green light through the early Avid work. It validated that the problem was important enough to solve and that there was willingness to pay for a better alternative. In other words, we were not trying to manufacture a need. We were confirming an existing demand that had not been served effectively. That is where resourcesync comes in. resourcesync creates a unified resource intelligence layer across Microsoft Teams, Jira, and Smartsheet. Instead of forcing teams to manually compare information across platforms, it centralizes resource visibility, flags conflicts, and supports earlier intervention through predictive insights. The value proposition is simple: fewer surprises, less administrative work, stronger planning confidence, and better use of existing talent. For enterprise teams, that means fewer delays and more control. For stakeholders, that means a solution tied directly to execution performance. Just as important, the economics of switching are compelling. Our modeled analysis shows approximately 14 hours saved per planning cycle and an estimated return on investment of around 450%. Those numbers matter because customers do not switch for small improvements. They switch when the gain is obvious, measurable, and worth the effort. We also tested whether customers viewed resourcesync as the best value when compared with alternatives. One of our strongest proof points is the 68% customer preference result. That metric matters because it reflects comparative value, not just interest. Customers are telling us that when they weigh the available options, resourcesync stands out as the better choice. From a business perspective, the solution is also attractive. resourcesync is positioned around enterprise pricing with healthy margins and scalable economics. That means the customer value story and the profit story reinforce each other. And under the surface, the feature set supports the promise. Cross-platform integration, conflict detection, centralized visibility, and predictive resource insights are not isolated features. Together, they solve the actual job customers need done. So by this point in the story, we know three things. The pain is real. The value is strong. And customers prefer what we are offering. Next, Sabia will show why customers are ready to switch now, how demand will be created, and why resourcesync is positioned to win in the market.
Thanks, Hugh. At this stage, the key stakeholder question becomes, why will customers switch, and why will that switch create sustainable demand? Switching does not happen simply because a product is slightly better. It happens when customers feel enough friction in the status quo and see a solution that is easier to adopt, easier to justify, and more rewarding to keep. That is exactly the position resourcesync is designed to occupy. The trigger events are clear. As teams scale, projects multiply, and coordination grows more complex, spreadsheet patches and disconnected dashboards stop working. Leaders begin to feel the cost of late conflict detection, overloaded staff, and weak planning visibility. That is the moment when demand for change becomes real. resourcesync lowers the barriers to that change because it works with the tools customers already use. We are not asking enterprises to rip out Microsoft Teams, Jira, or Smartsheet. We are adding an intelligence layer across those environments. That makes switching more practical. It reduces resistance, shortens onboarding, and helps customers improve coordination without forcing a complete process reset. This is why switch dynamics are so important. Demand creation happens when the customer sees three things at once: a painful current state, a credible path to adoption, and a clear outcome advantage. resourcesync checks all three boxes. Our best value validation reinforces that point. With 68% customer preference, customers are signaling that resourcesync is not just viable. It is preferred. That matters because preference in a competitive comparison is one of the strongest indicators that a switch can happen in the real market. Our pricing structure also supports demand creation. Enterprise buyers can justify the purchase because the value is easy to frame in business terms: recovered planning time, fewer resource conflicts, better utilization, and more reliable delivery outcomes. When the internal buyer can explain value in those terms, adoption becomes much easier to champion. Competitively, our position is differentiated. Many tools help manage work. Some support communication. Some support planning. But few solutions bridge these platforms while adding predictive intelligence focused specifically on resource coordination. That integration gap is where resourcesync wins. The broader market opportunity supports scale. As enterprise software environments become more fragmented, the cost of coordination failure becomes more visible. That creates a growing market for practical, measurable solutions like ours. Of course, enterprise adoption also requires trust. That is why our architecture and risk mitigation approach matter. Stakeholders need confidence in security, reliability, implementation feasibility, and data integrity. We have identified those concerns early and shaped the solution accordingly. The takeaway is this: customers are ready to switch because the pain is real, the path is practical, and the benefits are measurable. That is what makes demand creation credible. With that, I'll hand it to Brian to close with financial readiness, go-to-market execution, and our recommendation to move forward.
Thanks, Sabia. I'll close by answering the final stakeholder question: should resourcesync move into execution now? From a financial standpoint, the case is strong. resourcesync is designed to serve a meaningful enterprise need through a recurring revenue model with attractive margin potential. That matters because a good idea is not enough. To move into execution, stakeholders need confidence that the solution can generate profit over time, not just early interest. Our projections show a path to scalable revenue supported by enterprise pricing, repeatable use cases, and measurable customer value. The same factors that make resourcesync attractive to buyers, such as time savings, conflict reduction, and better utilization, also make it commercially durable. Our go-to-market plan is designed to reduce risk and accelerate traction. We are combining direct enterprise selling with leverage from systems integrators and implementation partners. That approach gives us both credibility and reach. It also reflects how enterprise software is actually adopted, through trusted relationships, operational proof, and visible business outcomes. Now let's talk about the recommendation. We are asking for a go decision to move resourcesync into execution. That means approving pilot activity, funding the next phase of build and launch, and enabling the partnerships needed to support adoption. This is not a speculative leap. It is the logical next step after disciplined validation. Timing also works in our favor. Enterprises are under pressure to do more with constrained resources, while coordination complexity continues to rise. The gap between execution demands and existing coordination tools is getting wider. That creates urgency for a solution that can deliver immediate, visible, and measurable value. We also recognize that business ecosystem risks are real. Integration complexity, adoption friction, data quality, and partner dependencies all matter. But these are not unknown risks. They are identified risks with mitigation strategies already built into the plan. That is exactly the discipline stakeholders should want to see before approving execution. Most importantly, this solution has been tested against the right questions. Is the problem worth solving? Yes. Do customers see clear value? Yes. Will they switch when the economics and adoption path make sense? Our evidence says yes. Can the business generate profit over time? Yes. That is why our conclusion is confident. resourcesync is not just an interesting concept. It is a validated solution with a credible demand creation path, a sound business model, and a practical execution plan. So our final message is simple. The pain is real. The value is proven. The switch logic is clear. The market timing is favorable. And the business case is ready. We believe resourcesync is ready to move into execution, and we ask for your approval to move forward. Thank you.